I grew up with the trauma of my father's death at 4 years old.
Oh.
Yes. I decided to give my life to God when I was 19 at the church. You know that childhood trauma. Remembering that someone came to your house and said, "Oh, Kendra, your father just get shot and dead."
Greetings, viewers. Welcome to the Bendon SDA YouTube channel. And today we're just going to be sharing a testimony from our fellow member, Sister Kendra White.
Yes, Kendra White. Good afternoon. Greetings to you all.
And the theme for this interview will be When God Stepped In. So we're just going to get right into it with the first question. So can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Good afternoon again. My name is Kendra White. I am 27 years old. I am from Maypen, Clarendon. I'm a mother to one, and I enjoy cooking, cleaning. Well, I used to enjoy reading, not anymore, and watching TV.
So what was your relationship with God growing up?
My relationship with God growing up, we had a good relationship. I grew up in the Pentecostal church. I wasn't a part of the Seventh-day Adventist church. However, my mother, she had a Christian background in which, she didn't attend church when she sent me to church on Sunday. There was this outreach Sunday program in our community. My mother would send me to that church, So my relationship was built with God throughout those years, yes.
So was there a turning point, whether positive or negative, in your spiritual journey?
Yes, there was a positive turning point. I grew up with the trauma of my father's death at 4 years old.
Oh.
Yes. I decided to give my life to God when I was 19 at the church. You know that childhood trauma. Remembering that someone came to your house and said, "Oh, Kendra, your father just get shot and dead." That
Wow.
resonates in my mind over the years. So I grew up with that trauma. After giving my life to God, I started to feel comforted. I started to feast on the word. I started to pray. So that was a turning point where, I said, okay, I need to put that behind, and live for God because He's already gone.
Yes, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers can relate to something that she just said.
Right.
Can you share a moment where you clearly saw the hand of God at work?
Yes, definitely. I remembered when I graduated from high school, I got a summer job right after high school. I wanted to go to sixth form. However, when I was working during the summer, the person didn't give me time off to apply. So upon not applying on time, when I went to the school to apply, they said, "Oh, Kendra, the time was late, you cannot apply." I felt down. And when I went to the principal, he said, "Oh boy, Kendra, you have to apply to another school." That was not what I wanted to do. However, I was going through a little period because everybody went back to school except me, and I passed the subjects to go back to school. And I quit the job that I was doing, although they gave me extended time to continue the job. I quit and I prayed to God and I asked God for guidance. I remember one of the days I went to Maypen, and when I went to Maypen, there was this young lady in a nursing school uniform, and I stopped her and I asked her questions about the school. And she told me that, "Oh, you can apply another time." She started in September and it was almost October. And she said, "Oh, well, maybe you can apply now. You should try." I remember going down to the school the Tuesday morning, and I went there and I asked them what I need to start school and everything, and they provided me with that information. And she told me that, "Oh, you'll have to start school next week, Monday," and gave me the uniform layout and everything, what I needed for school. And God was so good. When I was doing the summer job, I saved some money. So I just went up in the town, I bought some material for one uniform, bought one shoes, and one stocking. And when I went home, I told my mom, and my mom gave me money to buy a piece more material and, to take to the dressmaker. And I started school So I realized that God turned for me because I was in a season of frustration. Oh, my career is going to crash, and I don't have, I just didn't want to just sit at home, because leaving from high school, getting a regular 9 to 5 job, as a new starter, people are asking for experience, which I did not have at the time. So when I started, I was so excited. I started late, but I came out great. So that was a turning point for me right there.
Started out late, but you came out.
Right.
I like that. Okay, so were there any scriptures that gave you strength during that period?
Yes. Jeremiah 29, verse 11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. Yes.
Are there any signs or dreams that God used to comfort you?
Yes, there was. I wanted to become a part of a particular uniform group growing up. However, there was a time when, I didn't know how to go about doing that, And when one night when I went to bed, a dream, getting ready inside of my mother's room in my uniform, And I woke up and I was like, where am I at? Where am I at? Is this for real? So, and I applied a few years down after that dream, and that process is going successfully. I'm just on a little pause for right now to continue further down. Yes.
Yes, dreams are one of the many ways God uses to communicate with us. So I'm glad that you shared that, because a lot of people, they just brush it off and say, oh, it's a dream.
Right.
And it's like, no, it can be much deeper than that.
Right.
So the next question is, what did God teach you through that entire experience?
God taught me faith. And during that time, my grandmother always told me that, and my mother always told me that, Kendra, you need to have faith. Even if it is as small as a mustard seed, just have faith. God will pull you through. Just go and have faith. So he taught me to have faith in the dungeon, and come out on top. Yes.
So what would you say to somebody who is in that same season of hardship?
I would say to that person, keep on praying, trust God, block out the negativity, be around people who are positive, who will influence you to do better, who will encourage you about God, trust God again. Yes.
It's all about faith.
Right.
So we've come to the end of the interview. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to share your testimony. I'm sure that it resonated with somebody. I'm sure you really inspired somebody.
Right.
Stay tuned to our YouTube channel if you want to see more powerful testimonies like this. And we also have our own youth podcast, Faith Unfiltered, that you can also check out. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And again, have a great day.